Hello everyone, so for today's video, we are going to talk about the steps and mechanisms of blood coagulation. So first, what is blood coagulation? So blood coagulation results in hemostasis, which prevents bleeding or hemorrhage. Platelets are activated and clump together at the exposed endothelial cells during blood clotting, which is followed by the disposition and stabilization of a cross-linked fibrin mesh. So coagulation, also known as blood clotting, is the process through which blood changes from a liquid and becomes thicker, like a gel. Coagulation is part of a larger process called hemostasis, which is the way that the body makes bleeding stop when it needs to. So for example, when we were a kid, we used to trip and fall all the time. And when that happens, we used to get those open skin which has blood. Blood coagulation happens when the blood from our skin dries up and then it clumps. So as you can see in the picture, that is what happens inside our skin whenever we have blood coagulation. As I mentioned earlier, hemostasis. So what is hemostasis? So hemostasis is the process that causes a blood vessel to stop bleeding. It is a multi-step process with connected steps. The end result of this chain of events is the production of a plug that seals off the injured area of the blood artery, regulating the bleeding. So now let's move on to the mechanism of blood coagulation. So the mechanism of coagulation involves activation, adhesion, and aggression of platelets along with disposition and maturation of fibrin. These orders of coagulation can result in bleeding, like bruising and uncontrollable bleeding like hemorrhage, or obstructive clotting, also known as thrombosis. So in this picture, we can see what the normal blood vessel looks like. So it has the red blood cells, the platelets, and the white blood cells. And when these blood vessels are damaged, we can see the activated platelets stick to the injury site. And then a sort of platelet plug happens. So vasoconstriction limits blood flow and platelets from a sticky plug. And that's when blood clotting happens. So as you can see on the third picture, the fibrin clot acts like a sort of mesh that stops the bleeding. So these are the three mechanisms of blood coagulation. So these are the vascular spasm, the platelet plug formation, and the last one, the coagulation. So what are the steps of blood coagulation? So the body generates a method to reduce blood loss when a blood artery is injured. Platelets create a temporary plug. Fibrin binds this plug together to form a clot. So the first step is the constriction of the blood vessels. And then the second step is the formation of a temporary platelet plug. And the third step is the activation of the coagulation cascade. And lastly, the formation of the fibrin plug or the final clot. So that is the steps and mechanism of blood coagulation. On the next video, we are going to talk about the functions of arteries and veins in systemic circulation.